Right, welcome everyone. It's Monday Madness with the Venus Project UK. We're doing our FAQ study session. I got Mick and Ludus here, as always. Today we're doing question 9, 10, and 11. So number 9, for anyone, we read the questions. They're on the FAQ for the website. We write our own answers first, and then we double check with the website and kind of give ourselves a little mark and see how well we do. Generally. Okay, number 9, this question is, in the future, worded slightly weirdly, in the idea of future, do you think that the regional differences will have the greatest influence as they do today, or will these differences disappear? Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, mine's nice and short. I think I believe that regional disputes will not happen as often, but that cultural differences will still occur, such as religions, for at least a few generations.
Good. Linus?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. They will disappear in the same manner as racism, bigotry, hatred, jealousy, and other erroneous and harmful notions will disappear. Through mass media, education system, publications, shows, entertainment, and other methods, the newly established system will push news and views relevant to the well-being of Earth and everything on it.
Good answer. Mine is, well, today we're on a path towards global homogenization, but with the Venus Project, the first aim is to make ourselves a global society, removing the arbitrary borders of nation states. In the future, something might become globally standard, such as language. However, we feel that there will be a great deal of differences in people, and it is possible that some locations will become specialized in areas of art, science, and technology. The city designs will be based on the needs of the people who live there and the resources available. It is unlikely that all cities will become similar in the future, and we do not expect regional differences to be totally erased. But those that remain will not be arbitrary and will serve the people as best as possible. Alright, 3 answers. Mine and Mick were fairly similar, but Ludus's was slightly different. I'm interested to see what they say. Does anyone want to read it out?
Yeah, I'll do it, man. Our problems today are enormous and global in their scope and impact. They cannot be solved by any one nation. The concept of common good is global in nature, but local in implementation. We must start with what we have in common. All social systems, regardless of political philosophy, religious belief, or social customs, ultimately depend upon natural resources like clean air and water, arable land, and the technology and personnel to maintain a high standard of living. This can be accomplished through the intelligent and humane application of science and technology using a global systems approach. When money and self-interest are outgrown, interaction between nations won't be based on self-interest but on mutual interest. This approach will help eliminate artificial boundaries that separate people.
Cool. I think that's pretty good answer. Very similar, I think, to Ludus's answer.
Yeah.
Whilst me and Mick kind of focused on, well, there could be individual differences that's obviously allowed in the Venus Project, so we kind of looked on that a little bit more, I would say. But generally, I think we didn't miss anything too bad. Anyone else have any?
I like what Ludus said about pushing news and views, relevant ones, I think it was. I mean, like the media does it nowadays, manipulates people in a way to make them spend money. I think I guess in the Venus Project, it'd be manipulating people to help each other and solve problems and make things more efficient. So, sounded a good idea.
I did have a question in regards to, I always wondered this whole slogan of global in, let's just read it instead of guessing. Concept of common good is global in nature but local in implementation. Could you guys elaborate? Because I don't know. Sounds smart. Some part of me says, yeah, that's cool, that's clever, but how?
For me, that kind of what I think about that answer is it kind of talks about a little bit about what I was saying about there'll be cities in the north where it's cold and they'll be designed one way, and there'll be cities in the deserts and things that will be designed another way. So, but they'll be designed as a global system of interlocking parts, essentially, which, whilst independent but codependent, if you know what I mean.
And I think maybe my memory's crap, but somebody was talking earlier about like Japan and the fallout from the power station, like not just traveling to like America, but it's eventually going to go around the globe. So we've got to all take care of the globe, but like on a like Aidan said, on a more local level, you've got to worry about the temperature and shit.
Nice. I also have a question in regards to, so do you think, since they are talking about regional differences, and if we are to take regional differences as, let's say, your dresswear, your architecture, your language, and your hobbies, as well as your culture, is what separates you, then would it be also semi-logical to infer that local in implementation? So that's essentially like that little video which said science versus religion, which is, don't pray for kinder men or better yield of crops. Dig a trench and hug your neighbor. Do you think that kind of could play into this answer?
So I don't quite understand what you're.
Oh, okay, sorry. So instead of basically expecting this whole grand structure to be erected, and only then people start to sort of come to their senses of probably I shouldn't shoot this one, probably I shouldn't rape anybody, probably shouldn't steal, shouldn't blah blah blah, all the aberrant behaviors. Do you think it's essentially it starts with you? You, as many other advocates, have started using this word lead by example, and then people sort of see and try to mimic what you do because it's, I don't know, whatever, kinder, better, all those things.
Yeah, I'd say probably yes. If the thing is that it's almost like an economic decision for people. They go, is he doing better because he behaves like that? And by whatever their definition of better is. And hopefully with the education model that we have going on, the people will start changing their views of what's better, and then they'll see, not saying that we're better than people, but what's more relevant way of living.
I have a bit of an example. There was where we just packed like rugs and cabinets and stuff, and we've got to put them in a little pallet with collars on. But the rugs are a pain in the ass. When you go to pack rugs, they just get in the way of everything. They're really heavy. They're just bad. But one of the guys who actually wasn't as, I don't want to use the word smart. He looked like he was dumb. But he tie wrapped one of the rugs to the side to the collar, which made it stable and stay in place. And he was the first guy to do it. And then like everybody else started doing it because obviously so I think it's that sort of thing that like when people see that it gives them an advantage, that's when they'll start using it.
That's awesome, by the way. Thanks. And that's the one answer which is extremely referential in Jacques' examples by himself. The whole idea of why should I switch to a hybrid car? It's not cheaper, right? That's the immediate factor which you start, I'd buy a Tesla, but that shit costs me such and such more, tens of thousands more than this beat up old piece of shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. Thanks, both of you. It makes sense.
Cool. Good questions. All right, next one. The next question number 10, is what types of pressures would be alleviated in the Venus Project's designs? I'll go first on this one. I say the environmental, psychological, and material inequalities of the current monetary system can be relieved through the implementation of a resource-based economy, along with many other pressures. Notice?
Sorry, I just have to keep switching between unmute button and... Alright, so I said semantically this question is difficult to answer. Design of what? The sewage system, education, raising of kids, manufacturing plants, chairs. I can only guess what the person wants to know. If taken into account the Venus project is designed as a total enclosure system, then one can begin to see enormous benefit to the health of the environment, humans, and every other organism which exists. Yeah, there's a problem with my answer because obviously cancer is not something you want surviving. Energy production would only be built after the positive and negative retroaction studies are concluded. If the positive outweighs the negative, it's built. Nothing at all is built for the detriment of the environment and humans. On the contrary, everything in the city is built to serve human and environmental need. Free access to goods and services, a plethora of interests, hobbies, and activities to pursue. Once the shackles of monetary stress is eliminated.
And I believe scarcity will be eliminated, a lot of crime or aberrant behaviour alleviated, and of course, eating, travel, communication, and general life will be easier with less limitations.
Nice. One of the kind of simpler questions, one that we might get a lot though, so it's worth looking over. Right, I'll read this. So the answer to your question, what types of pressures will be alleviated in the Venus Project's design? The greatest lesson we might learn could be that the human beings, free of debt, insecurity, and fear, become much more amiable. No one will be out to sell anyone anything or to deprive another of possessions or money. In a resource-based economy, the bias for unhealthy human aggression will be outgrown. People will no longer be burdened by the nagging concerns that consume so much of our attention, such as mortgages, healthcare costs, fire insurance, economic recession, the loss of jobs, depression, and taxes. With the elimination of these burdens and the removal of the conditions that creates feelings of envy, greed, and competition, our lives will be far more meaningful. For the first time, we may know what it is to be human. As we enhance the lives of others, protect our environment, and work towards abundance, all of our lives can become richer and more secure. If these values were put into practice, it would enable all of us to achieve a much higher standard of living within a relatively short period of time, a standard of living that would be continuously improved. People would be free to pursue whatever constructive endeavor they choose, without the economic pressures, restraints, and taxations that are inherent in the monetary system. By constructive endeavor, we mean anything that enhances the lives of the individual and others. When education and resources are available to all without a price tag, there will be no limits to human potential. With these major alterations, people would eventually live longer, more meaningful, and healthier lives. The measure of success would be the fulfillment of one's individual pursuits rather than the acquisition of wealth, property, and power.
That's pretty good, man. I think we all got a lot of that in there. I was just going to say, and it's gone again. I was talking to somebody the other day about how people want to be nice to each other in this system, but when it comes to things like, am I going to feed myself or you? You're forced to feed yourself. So I think that answer was good. That like we're not going to have to fight. We're not going to have to compete. We're going to be a lot less stressed because we ain't got to worry about not having any food on table, nowhere to live, not going to be cold tonight, etc. So yeah, I can only dream of what it's going to be like in a resource-based economy, but I just hope I live to see one.
You're right. With a token-based system, we to help someone else out, you have to lose out yourself. And for some people who have kind of a buffer, that's fine. But too much of the time, even things about like just time resources and stuff like that, you end up going, well, I could do something for someone else, or I could do something for me, and you don't, or like I lose out something for me, and my kind of standard of living or my enjoyment goes down for an hour or two. Like, you don't put the human brain under that pressure because it's lazy, and it'll go for the selfish option every time.
That's an interesting notion, actually. So, would you say that values like altruism are only possible when scarcity is a factor? Would you say that essentially, if we do venture into resource-based economy, such a sentiment won't exist? Because how are you sacrificing yourself when everybody's provided for?
Yeah, it depends on your definition of altruism, I guess.
And I think it depends on the abundance that we have as well. Like I don't, well, yeah. So in resource-based economy, full resource-based economy, got everything we need, doing everything we want. I think maybe, yeah. It's not that you're losing out to give somebody.
Yeah.
You just understand that helping him helps you. So, or like helping him helps him, helps him, helps him, and eventually comes back to you. So
That's it. It's there's like the duality of, there will be people out there that do things specifically for some other person, and then they personally gain no benefit from that. But it's still, because of the mindset, because of the whole system, you're doing something for someone else for yourself as well, and like it's both. So, and the thing is that, like, I think there'll be selfish people and there'll be altruistic people, and it doesn't actually matter because the system's set up that both of them help each other. If you're selfish, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't go like patenting things and hiding stuff away, if you're doing something just to make your life better, then it'll probably help someone else as well.
yeah, and I think in the way that, like Aidan just said, if you're selfish or altruistic in the future, it won't matter because the system's set up to make it help each other. I think it's also the same that, like, in this system, we can still like pay forward and receive something. For example, I don't know whether I told you about the trouble I had with the council and the gardens and shit, but they were trying to give me next door neighbour who's partially blind shit for not doing his garden. So I did his garden for him, put a complaint in, etc. And I was just angry at the council myself, I think, so it was partially a selfish thing, but I did it because I didn't want to see him get evicted for not being able to cut his garden. It just didn't make sense to me. But I've just dug over my front garden because I wanted pebbling, and the guy's mum said I could have the pebbles for free because she was throwing them out anyway. So I've just got like a full garden of pebbles for nothing. So it can happen in this system. It's just not as easy.
Well done. All right. Thanks. That was cool.
Anything else on that one?
Pretty straightforward, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, all our answers were pretty good. They went into some more detail, but that's fine. We don't have all day to be writing answers. So number 11. The question is, what is the single most important aspect of the Venus Project? And this really is a tough question. It's probably one that will get asked quite a lot, because people want to be reductive or just learn the bare minimum. So let's see what we have answers. Nidus, have you thought of anything yet?
I honestly, man, I don't. You know, it's like my own goal system. You know, if I do say, oh, there isn't such a thing as one bit, you need to learn a lot of it, I feel like I'm being too simplistic. But then I don't have anything to offer in return, so I just shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You feel like you're not actually answering the question they've asked, so yeah. I don't know. I think we'll see what they say. But Jacques, in questions like this, he I can't remember where he said it, but he kind of said that he doesn't answer the question that they've asked. He answers the question that they're trying to say. You know,
Yeah, and actually, do you think that this could be possible where, I mean, maybe this question doesn't reflect that intent, but in the past, Jacques commented on if a person says, oh, will you be free in a resource-based economy? And he says, due to the nature of such a low-grade question, the answer should be low-grade in return, and the answer is just yes. Just check mark and go and move on. So it's the same. You know what I mean? If they want detail, he'll elaborate. But this kind of question doesn't require elaboration. It's just, will you be free? Yes. Bye. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I see this kind of like that. Oh no, not quite, because it's kind of like a naive question. It's a question where you go, all right, go and look at the website and actually learn some stuff, but like actually research a little bit about it, because it clearly doesn't have one kind of major theme. It's a whole interlocking kind of connection of ideas. I think their answer will probably be, there isn't one one aspect. It's about a kind of holistic approach. But we'll see. My answer to the question is it's hard to pinpoint one area. If I were pressed, I would say the mechanistic approach to human behavior. And, of course, I'm going to squeeze in a second, which is the generalist approach to science and technology. I cheated and answered too. Nick said...
The survival of the human species and the environment.
Which is a very good one.
A nice and reductionist.
Yeah, it very much is like Lita said, it's quite a low-grade question. Although they've written a very long answer.
Would you like me to read it?
Sorry. I opened up the answer to the next one.
Oh.
It is a very long answer.
Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, please. Number 11.
Okay. Alright, so what is the single most important aspect of the project? The single most important aspect of the project is the social direction of all nations working together on the restoration of the environment in a resource-based economy. The aim is to establish all the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people. This we see as the only process to end the present cycle of events of war, poverty, hunger, political corruption, and environmental degradation. The technology that we present can make it possible for the global population to obtain a very high standard of living that is higher than ever imagined possible. We could eventually surpass the artificial boundaries that divide people. If you fail to grasp the significance, consider this. In the United States, when the states joined together, the militias disappeared at the borders, and the Americans were free of territorial disputes. This same can be applied globally, where all science and technology are utilized for the benefit of all the Earth's inhabitants.
Okay.
Quite comprehensive, no?
Yeah, but basically what they're saying, the answer for them is the global approach.
And to establish all of the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people. So, and that was a key point.
Yeah. But I kind of class that under a global approach.
I think that makes a bit more sense when you say the global approach, because you know what I mean? If the establishment of all the resources as heritage of all the world's folks was just the only thing, well then what's the next step? I think the combination with that, as well as saying that, where is it? Right, directions of all nations working together on restoration of environment in a resource-based economy. You know what I mean? Just gives it a bit more of a branching feeling. And then again, that's just my interpretation. What am I?
No, yeah. It's actually, I guess they've answered it in a slightly different way. Like, they basically answered a slightly different question to me, which theirs is what's the single most kind of important aspect when implementing a resource-based economy. I was thinking more about what's the most important aspect in understanding the theories behind, the thinking behind it. That's cool. Shows that language is one of the ones they're pretty good at.
Well done. That's a great stab. No, I completely agree with you. But that's the whole point why the previous gatherings of just people on TeamSpeak, when they wanted to know something in 2011 and 12, there was a lot of this from the POCs saying, well, can you condense your question? Because it was just sort of, okay, well, what's this? And they're like, no, but what part of this? And so yeah, a lot of people had to rework their questions because it just focused on. So okay, what's a word? Which word? In what context? What do you mean? You know?
And these kind of like static question answer things is very hard to understand. Like it was about a year ago or so. Like when I was doing the POC FAQ kind of things on TVP education, or whilst they were going on, it's a real struggle that the POCs have to like try and figure out what people are saying. Most of the time, it's people who aren't English speakers natively, and so it's just you get questions like number 9, which, you know, grammatically it makes no sense at all, but you can kind of put it together.
That's fair enough, man. That's actually, fucking hell. There you go. It's easily to be mistaken for a bigot, you know what I mean? Because I don't know for what reason. I just think immediately when a question is asked in an English language, I immediately, for some reason, make up some sarcastic remark of, couldn't you have done a better job wording this? But then you're right. What if a person isn't an English speaker and I'm just a fucking bigot? That sucks. That's not cool at all.
Oh, it's very hard. I work with an Indian chap who doesn't have the best grasp on the English language, and quite a lot of the time he sounds very, very rude. But that's just, he doesn't quite get the grammar and where you put certain words, and it's a struggle getting over that. Like I'm trying because I know about semantics and how this works. I've read the tyranny of words, and still get fed up with them sometimes.
That's amazing then.
Do you change the way you talk to foreigners, Aidan?
It's very interesting, actually. During my travels, it took me about a week to basically understand what the local people were saying in English. You know, like to clue in on the way that they kind of were saying it. Say we went to Ghana, people they speak what's called Pidgin English, and it's different. There's slightly different intonations and things like that, and it took me a while to key into it. But then once you did, after about a week or so, it's okay, and you fall into it. Like where I work now, we have lots and lots of Japanese people, and it's a Japanese company, and there's a thing within the company called Janglish, which is like when you're speaking to a Japanese person, you have to kind of use this kind of vocabulary. Like you miss out a lot of does, and you're just gonna go. I can't even think of anything right now, and it's very strange when you first come into it, but you pick it up pretty fast. This chap I have, because the problem is that we have Janglish as well as Indian and English thrown into this communication mix, and it's a bit tough. But you know, I'm starting to really actually make a conscious effort about it now. I have to.
Well, I get like told by me English, like Yorkshire speaking friends, that when I'm talking on here, I've changed I've not got as broad of a Barnsley accent, and then like when I'm talking to like foreigners at work, it's like to each different foreigner I speak a different accent. Like one of the guys says, "Why do you sound Jamaican?"
Well, this is
like
sympathetic accent.
Say again.
There's this thing called sympathetic accenting, and I don't think everyone has it, but like it can affect some people more than others.
Well,
definitely. I had a real Ghana voice, and I had a real Madagascar voice, and you know.
Well, like my friend Jane, she was saying like I sound really weird, like I'm trying to talk posh, and I say, well, I'm just trying to speak clearly, and then my friend Matthias says that I'm the only one that he can understand in our factory because like I speak clearly, so it seems to work, even though I sound fucking stupid by the sound, because I can't hear how I sound. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's part of that. It's part of that thing, like that. I like the idea of social chameleon idea, and like it's amazing. I don't understand why it's ever used as an insult because everyone is all the time. It's a really cool part about humans that you are a different person with different people and contexts. And like for instance, I'm trying to build up my language with this guy that I work with at work, build up our communication levels through just kind of little things. Where every time I ask him things now, it has to be very clear. I get drawings and stuff just to build up so we start getting an understanding. So then, because I tend to just jump into things and don't really and expect people to catch up. So I'm trying to build up that at the moment. But anyway, doesn't matter.
No, well, it's all very useful part of the experience of trying to build up communication, and especially with such things as trying to advocate for the Venus Project. I mean, numerous times Jack refers to this. You know, try to get down to their level. It's numerous beautiful examples in the 70s and 80s lectures where he says, you know, you read all these books, you pick up semantics, you pick up something like the cerebral code by whatever the person's name was, and then, you know, you're on the 15th book, and you come to speak to the person with the 15th book, and, you know, the person might not have read the first one, and you're, you know, shoveling their minds with all this quantum computing and fucking AI and automated cars, and they don't even know Intel Pentium has i7 quad-core processor out, you know. So you have to really just survey, again, you know, ask questions and then based on their answers. It's difficult, like you said, yeah, you know, you tend to just sort of go at it and, no, you catch up, you know, it's like, dude, I haven't been to these places, I don't know these things.
That's it. I think that there's two things. One, from like the communication standpoint, I really like. I'm pretty sure it's Stuart Chase. Could be Kuwait. I can't. The guy from Language and Thought and Action. One of those two said that it's the responsibility of the speaker, not the listener, to make sure that and it's so like that combined with. It's kind of slightly off, but Jacques, in one of these old 70s, 80s lectures, you know, he says, I think like he's talking about you're in a relationship and they want to do something, but you know it's kind of against what you want to do exactly, but like because they're in an emotional level, it's your responsibility to bend. So like, it's kind of from both of those, there's kind of pressure on you to change and do better, which is
It's
good.
a hand holder example, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. What certain people require and what you're willing to give. Because we know more, I think he says, or something like that, it's our responsibility.
Yeah, so essentially if you are the man who does the reading, who is on the 15th book, if your grandmother or mother does ask you to go to church once a year, you should yield, because that's kind of a little bit of a therapy to them too. Because otherwise, if you just rebel, however logical it is to you, they kind of get heartbroken a little bit. So
that kind of goes against something that I've been told recently, but by somebody who's never talked about the Venus Project or anything. So I was describing to my counsellor how when I upset somebody, when I make them angry, sad, whatever, I feel like I have to fix that problem. And she was kind of like, whoa, like you can't control somebody's behavior, you can't control somebody's mood. You might want to make things up to them, but you might not be able to. So you shouldn't lay that burden on your own shoulders. So that's kind of two contradicting ideas I've got in my head now.
Well, there's certain things. Say dealing with someone who has depression, like you don't go in to fix that depression, because that's like basically the worst thing that you can kind of do. Like, oh, like if they realize that you're trying to fix them, then you know that's kind of the worst thing to actually do for that person in that situation. So there's certain things out of your control, I guess.
well, wouldn't it make sense? So the whole bit about trying to change somebody's behavior is only with the survey, with the initial compass of sort of, okay, well, how do I even understand this person? So they're into rock and roll, they like such and such, that's their sexual orientation, that's what they hate, that's what they love, certain bits of that's their hobbies, this is how much of academics they understand, and you start to kind of make a little bit of a core of what they are, kind of, you know. And obviously, since we understand that it's all that crazy varying degrees, and what Sapolsky tries to teach us with, non-categorical thinking. Don't think in buckets. You try to look at all of them and what is this, and have they had anything to eat? Are they late for shit? Have they been holding urine in for 30 hours? You know, just you never know, right?
Hmm.
But you can kind of guess. You can kind of estimate, and based on, well, I suppose the best information you got up to now.
So, like, what you're saying is that if it depends on why somebody's upset or what's making somebody uncomfortable to whether you try and fix that problem. Is that what makes sense?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll try to give an example. I mean, just I I live above a human being, and he likes to listen to music. He's a music producer, so naturally he has the setup, the mixers, the everything. For me though, I get anxiety attacks when he plays that music as loud as he prefers to hear it. My feet feel the vibration of the bass, and then immediately in my core, in the chest, I start to rattle. I literally feel like there's an attack, an impending attack, and I just feel like I have to be ready for someone to fucking punch me, right? Now, it was an exchange between him and I. I walk down, knock on the door. Please, can you, quiet a little bit? That this is the situation in my room. By the time the fourth time I knocked, I invited him up so he can see while the music is playing at the level which is making me uncomfortable. Can you look? This is what's happening. I'm not making fictional stories. This is real, and it hurts me. For the ninth time, I knocked, and that made him very angry. His face got flushed. He rapidly threw out sentences to which I was only able to interject 3 times, and by the end of it, the conclusion was, I don't give a fuck. I've spoken to this and this person who is responsible for the household. She said, etc. That excuses me, and I have no responsibility to do this thing you're asking me to do. Okay? I panicked. I was afraid. I was angry. I went to the park, endorphins, did some exercise, came back, and I genuinely thought I'm fucked. It's just this space. I have nowhere else to go. This is a prison, effectively. But the guy comes up, knocks on my door, and says, dude, I understand I was a little bit out of line. And then what proceeded were the symptoms on what the guy was suffering from himself. Okay? He literally said the following things. I have pressures at work. I had been persecuted by this phone call which you made. You complained to the services to say that the music is playing. That's extra pressure. There's other things with the family. So you see what I mean? All of a sudden, this anger that exploded in my face was actually another person suffering from things I had no fucking clue about. So that's what I meant. So if you do categorize that he's a chav or that other person is whatever else, you close off with possible aspects of how to think. And by the way, not to make it sound like it's easier, no fucking way, because I had those hypotheses in my head. Well, he must be something. He must be this. Probably there's worries. Probably there's pressures. But that's for me. And since I have no idea how to experimentally prove those ideas, I'm still paranoid. I'm still hurt. It's still anxiety attacks. I can't help that. So finally, when the human himself comes in, explains and confirms those hypotheses which you had, it's it's the biggest reliever. But it takes that kind of exchange. You know what I mean? It's rare. People can work universally. I doubt that it will. But it's that dialogue of sort of going to that shitty, uncomfortable place. Both are sweating. Both are breathing quickly because it's it's not comfortable. But if it does, if that first step happens, if a dialogue is open and you basically say, look, man, this shit hurts me, but then I understand where you're coming from, it's easier to communicate. This helps you, by the way. I have no idea.
I think, like, I'm going on. Somebody's upset, but there's like, I don't know, there is no such thing as free will, so the person being upset is a result of a series of unfortunate events. So it's like, if there's no free will, then we can't say I'm to blame, I'm responsible for your being upset. So who's responsible for like fixing it?
Well, okay, responsibility isn't necessarily what say Jacques was talking about earlier, about it's your responsibility to be better, or it's your responsibility. I guess it's just a way to try to make us do better and to progress in our kind of movement towards this method of actually being.
So try to help where you can, and if you can't, run the fuck away before they punch you.
That's it. I think if you have time, and I know most people who are annoyed and upset won't answer a whole bunch of questions, but if you have the kind of thing of, if you get the questions and see what's wrong, and then you can look at your resources, and if you can actually do something, then kind of, I'm not saying it's your responsibility, but you have the ability to fix it. Whereas if you actually don't, then and you can just see, well, I don't have the ability to fix that. It could be that they need, in the hand-holding dialogue, it could be that, I don't know, your girlfriend needs, I don't know, I get gross, but say a guy with 2 penises or 5, or you just need something that's outside of your resources, and that's just a physical thing that's impossible. There could be other things, emotional and all that stuff. And so it's not on you to feel bad that you can't meet those needs. It might be that the needs are irrational. It depends, I guess, on the situation. Some things it's just, you see loads of things where you want to help people, and it's just they've just been caught up in the gears of the system, and it's very, very hard to actually make a meaningful change in their lives through brief encounters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was a pleasant segue, though, don't you think?
Oh dear. Okay. Well, I guess we'll leave it for the recording today. We can still have a chat if you guys want to hang around. Next week, we will be doing number 12, which is what is the plan? Number 13, which is how do you see the collapse of the present system occurring? And 14, how do we get from here to there? Some interesting and very broad stroke questions. We'll see how well we do next week. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next Monday. If anyone was watching this, make sure to join in at 8:45 on Mondays. Keep a lookout on the Facebook page or our Google Plus account this week. Thanks, bye.